So, we've been looking at zero balancing, core zero balancing over the courses you've done. And core zero balancing is about foundation and semi-foundation joints. So when we're talking about zero balancing, we're mainly thinking about these foundation joints, primarily the sacroiliac joint in the core protocol, and the semi-foundation joints here in the ribs, for example, foundation joints in the tarsals here, at the feet here. And we know the protocol from sacroiliac joint, dorsal hinge, lumbar spine. We go to the freely movable joint of the hip here, because it's such a major transition point between the sacroiliac and the feet. We work on the feet, on the tarsal bones. We come up and we explore the ribs as a way of exploring these semi-foundation joints here. We explore the neck in its ranges of motion. We do the half moon vector and half moon vector with a twist. And we look at the scapula briefly, we look at the shoulder joint briefly. So this whole piece really is about foundation and semi-foundation joints, except really about this joint here in the core protocol. We use a protocol, and the reason we use a protocol is because if we work on one piece, it affects something else. If we work on that one, it affects something else. If we only work on one area, then the tension that's set up by that one releasing or balancing itself, but this one not, the other end of the piece of string, will just set up another different tension. So we want to work through the whole body. And we want to work through the whole body in this order because this is where we start, because this is our center. We start with the dantian, we start with our center, we start with this core center of gravity. Sacroiliac, dorsal hinge, lumbar spine. So much goes on around us. All our guts are in here. All our genitals are centered around here. This whole area is so important in how we feel and who we are. We then go down through the hip joint and down to the feet as a way of how this piece communicates with the earth. How we are in our hips and how we are in our tarsal bones really gives us that sense of the spring in our step and our connection to the earth. That underpins us. And as Rob was saying earlier, the deeper the roots, the taller the trees. So once we've got these roots nicely balanced, then we come up and look up here, which is our heart center, which is our lungs, our inspiration. And here, how we explore the world with vision, with our neck and the looking of that. And in Chinese medicine, the neck is the bridge between heaven and earth. So we've got energy coming down the central flows, and here it comes into this narrowing, this gorge. So the river's nice and broad through here, and then rushes through here. Acupuncture points on here, heaven rushing, for example, a lovely point. And then we broaden out into here, we come narrow again, and so the energy is more compact in this gorge here. So all these key areas we put together in a protocol, Fritz has put together in a protocol that ties it together beautifully. And then at the end of the session, we finish it with the closing fulcrums, half moon here, half moon here, half moon there, arm fulcrums, and it just pulls it all back together as one piece. So that's the point of the protocol. When we come to look at other joints of the body, which may crop up, a client might come in with saying, oh, I've got a really funny elbow, or my shoulder's a bit sore, or there's something going on in my wrist, or my knees, oh, terrible knees, my thumb really hurts, my big toe, got arthritis in my big toe. These places, we want to know how to handle in zero balancing, but these are not foundational, semi-foundation joints generally. The majority of them are freely movable joints. So here we have this joy of having control of our bodies. These are the places we interact with the world and have the ability to affect the world around us. Reading from the Tao Te Ching this morning reminds us that we can affect the world in a positive way, or we can affect the world in a negative way. We can go with the Tao and relax into the Tao and be with the Tao and be in harmony with nature, or we can pollute and destroy and break and have wars. And this is all through this medium of our freely movable joints. This is where our will is exerted and expressed in the world, and where our freedom of choice gives us that freedom of choice between love or the lower energies of our need in the world. So, the most interesting thing about zero balancing is the fulcrum. This is our working tool, this is our key thing. So we know how to do fulcrums into the sacroiliac joint, we know how to do fulcrums into ribs, we know how to do fulcrums into tarsal bones, we know how to do fulcrums into the neck. And we're going to come out and explore, well, how do we create a fulcrum in our fingers? How do we create a fulcrum in our wrists? How do we create a fulcrum in our elbow? How do we create a fulcrum anywhere? A client comes in and goes, you know, my nose has never been right since it was hit in the playground as a child. How do we create a fulcrum for the nose? This was my mother. She goes, oh, you know, my glasses really hurt. This was at the age of 80, and she was hit in the nose as a child, and it's hurt ever since. So I do a fulcrum there, stops hurting. She's had that all her life. It's just magic. This is what we do with zero balancing. We take the energy. And so much of what we know about zero balancing is it's not just a structural complaint, it's also an energetic complaint. So the history becomes really important with the freely movable joints. So what I'd like to do first is revise what makes a fulcrum. And what I'd like you to do is come to the couches and do a half moon vector on each other. And as you're doing it, I want you to think about all the things you've learned that come to play in a half moon vector. There's a lot in there. And see what we can remember and get onto the board. So,